Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another Alviso, and today we have a special guest. That is my teammate, Chris, although in this race, he is actually not my teammate. We decided on the way here we are going to be racing against each other, and that is going to be very clear in a few moments, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's kind of set the scene here. You guys know the normal wind direction at Alviso. See the little blue arrows in the bottom right. And other than that, I think the only other big team out here today was SJBC, San Jose Bicycle Club. Alviso is in San Jose after all, and they are in these blue jerseys. You guys probably recognize them by now. So with that said, let's just dive right into it. So how do I beat my teammate Chris? It's a good question because it's no easy task. He's smart, and he's a really strong bike racer too. It's a good thing he's usually my teammate. So I have to try to beat him today, and here's my thought process. If I can separate myself from him, get into a breakaway group, Chris is going to be a marked rider, no doubt. So if I can establish a gap, work with a small group of riders, everyone's going to look at Chris to try to bring that back. And I want to force that situation where Chris has to do chasing. So that's kind of my thought process, and that's why right here, when there's an attack that's just brought back, the front riders are slowing down, I put in a little dig, and I get some separation off the front right away. It's that good slingshot attack I've talked about a lot on this channel. Didn't have to spike up over 1,000 watts, just get good separation. I'm not overcommitting here. I'm just using my good position, good timing, conserving my speed, and all of a sudden I have a gap. So this was part of the plan, right? Chris is not part of this group. I'm doing some watts, you know, we're doing some power here, but I'm not going deep into the red or anything like that. I just want to see if I can have the riders behind force Chris to the front and force him to do some chasing. And it did not have the intended effect, unfortunately. Actually, it may have done more harm than good, because as far as I could tell, everyone else chased me back instead of Chris, like I wanted. So now I've got one less bullet, and now I got to be careful for the counterattack. So here's Chris on my left, asking me what's going on. Like, what happened there, buddy? He's in the green shorts and the brown top right there. So I decided it's probably time to fall back, spend a couple of laps resting in the draft, and make sure that Chris is in front of me so I can keep an eye on him. And maybe I'll try this again a little bit later in the race when people are a little bit more tired and less eager to chase everything back. But then this is the moment where I drop the ball and I allow just a little bit too much space between Chris and I. So you can tell by my mid-race exclamation that I need to immediately respond. I immediately recognize this danger, and I have to just get up there as quickly as possible. And notice that Chris chooses, by the way, one of my favorite places to attack, through this little wiggle, through the crosswind. This is a great place to establish a gap. Unfortunately, I was just on the losing side of it, and it's totally my fault, by the way. I just became complacent, became lazy, and allowed myself to drift too far back into the group, and Chris capitalized on that. So now I have to commit this energy to bridge this gap, which eventually I managed to get across, but it's a huge effort. Look at the commitment and energy here. I'm pretty much going into the red to make this happen, but I have to, because this is the race. If I let Chris in this small group start rotating off the front, then that's it. It's race over. So now we're in this group of like 12, which is just way too big to work together as a successful breakaway. So the hard work isn't quite over yet, because 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a breakaway from this breakaway until we reach that sweet spot of about 2 to 6 riders, I want to say. See, like right now, there's a move that's gotten a few seconds off the front, and everyone is just waiting for the rider on the front, who happens to be Chris, by the way, to respond. But Chris is just coasting, which is what I would be doing, by the way. Towing a breakaway group to the finish is no way to win a race. So with Chris out of position on the front, I try my luck once again to slingshot off the front, just like I did earlier in this race, to join a breakaway and force Chris to chase. And again, I find myself doing a pretty big bridge effort here, spending quite a bit of time in no man's land, committing a bunch of energy, but eventually it works, and we immediately start rotating nicely with a healthy gap back to the chasing group. So I'm thinking maybe this has worked. Maybe I've distanced myself from Chris and forced him to chase me back. But Chris is strong, and Chris is a savvy bike racer, so he told me after the race that his chase group was rotating nicely, but once they stopped helping him, he basically teleported across the gap to us solo, and decided he wasn't even going to slow down. So you're going to see in the rear camera, he is just light speed, just attacks right through us. And once he blasts right through us, I had just taken a pull. The timing was awful through this corner. I give it one little yell to see if they can chase him back, but this is just another one of those those moments where I have to commit the energy, which is seeming like a pattern here, right? I keep putting myself in this situation where I'm committing energy kind of unnecessarily, and now Chris has really capitalized on it because, yeah, I mean, you might think 11 kilometers is a long way to go solo, especially, you know, on a windy open course like this, but the rider like Chris, he's absolutely capable of it, so I have to commit the energy to stay on his wheel. But look at now, I mean, over 170 beats per minute, we're doing 32 miles an hour, and I'm in his draft still doing 300-something watts. Like, this is bad. It might seem nice that, look, Jeff, you're in the breakaway. This is great. But now I am racing Chris's race. I prefer a sprint. Chris prefers a breakaway, so this is totally his domain. Chris has successfully put himself in a position where he's waited, and now he has sprung this attack. And I'm on the back foot, to be totally honest. Look, I don't usually talk much about numbers on this channel, and I don't mean to, like, toot my own horn here, but I normalized 380 watts for this last 20 minutes of this race, which is a ton of power for me. For Chris, that's comfortably below threshold. So fans of this channel will know that I much prefer a 20-second effort over a 20-minute effort. And for that reason, I'm in a little bit of trouble here. Chris has got me up against the ropes. And you might be wondering, you know, why wouldn't I just sit in Chris's draft, force him to do all the work? Well, that's a mistake, and we're going to find out why here in just a few minutes. So 2 laps later, still 2 laps to go, about 6 kilometers to go. I roll through, take my pull here, and there's one difference here. Is my pulls before, like I said, I was up in the kind of high 300s, close to about 400 watts. My pulls up to this point for the last 2 laps, but now you can see I've knocked it back a little bit, about 340 watts. Remember, on the straightaway before we were going about 32 miles an hour. Now we're only doing 28, and here's my plan. I want to knock off the pace a little bit, bring that heart rate down, and I want to start thinking about the sprint. Because the way that I win this race is we come to 200 meters, all things equal. Feel pretty confident I can beat Chris in a heads-up sprint, but he doesn't want that to happen, right? He's not going to let me race my race. So he recognizes the fact that I've dropped the pace back a little bit, and he is not having any of that. So he is patient. He waits for me to finish my pull, and then he just immediately rips it right over the top of me through this corner. The timing was perfect. Ouch, this stings. And what's my response? Well, nothing really. You can see I stand up here for a second. I mean, I feared this was going to happen. I just expected it to happen later than 5.5 kilometers to go. But again, this is my mistake. Like, I totally underestimated Chris, who usually is racing as my teammate. So I don't have to experience the devastation of Chris's attacks until today. So I'm in this awkward position where I just decide I'm going to sit up, catch my breath a little bit, get caught by the peloton, and see if I can fare in a sprint for second. But the race is over. Chris has won this race in classy fashion, so congrats to him. Walker, drop me. Let's get him. Yeah, so I'm asking people to get him, like, as if that's going to happen. Chris has this thing wrapped up. It's over, but that's just a ploy for me to get people to chase. Anyway, here we are, 2 kilometers to go. I'm doing 1,000 watts because it's just a total mess. You can see there's a group off the front that I'm chasing back. Inside of 2 kilometers to go, this is no good. This is what happens, guys, when there isn't any control in the race and there isn't a high enough rate of speed. What happens is you get all these people trying to attack, trying to do a late race breakaway, which is totally understandable. But I still want to contest a field sprint, so I'm doing all this work to try to keep it together for 200 meters to go, and I'm probably just getting a little bit overzealous, and you can see in my rear cam, guess who it is? It's the birthday boy Jerome, and he is for sure much more patient and playing it much more cool than me. And the moment I catch this little move off the front, like I've said a bunch of times on this channel, you guys, there's always a great opportunity for a counterattack, and boom, big Dave Casel on the right. Always puts in a super threatening one. Anything from Dave, I mean, look, guys, the dude has stars and stripes on his jersey. He comes from the track. He always puts in these haymakers at around 1 kilometer to go. So that's the one that is very threatening because nobody wants to chase, right? That's what's so threatening about these late race attacks is like everyone's thinking about the sprint and they're trying to save all this energy and nobody wants to chase. And that includes me. but somebody's got to. So I'm going to get behind, I believe this is Blaine right here. Blaine and Dennis. And I'm kind of hoping that they're going to do the chasing and they're kind of hoping that I'm going to do the chasing. And then here comes Ben. So Ben is going to take one for the team here and chase back Dave. And this is my ride up there. So I gotta make this punchy surge in speed to get up onto Ben's wheel. And I know who's in my draft at this point. I don't even have to look back. Guys, you know. It's Jerome. He's always positioned so well. So he sees this too, just like I do, as our ticket up to the front of the race. And I'm like yelling at Ben right now for some encouragement. Like, come on, dude. You can do it. You can do it. Because look, there's actually a group of 2 off the front. I check back. You can see on the chest cam. I'm looking back. Okay, I know it's Jerome back there. 450 watts. Okay, I just have to commit because otherwise Dave makes it to the finish. So I got to launch an early one. What was that? About 300 meters to go. I have to try to shake Jerome. But man, I can't do it. I just don't have that pop anymore. Chris basically took all of it out of me, and I catch Dave here, and I think I have it, but you can see I check back under my shoulder right there, and I'm like, oh crap, I see Jerome coming up on me, and there's just nothing I can do. Legs are seizing up. Jerome had the much better sprint today, so kudos to him, and huge congrats to Chris for dethroning me at my beloved Alviso. What a jerk, right? But what mistakes did I make, and how can I beat Chris next time? Well, I think my first mistake was telling Chris we shouldn't race his teammates. No, in all seriousness, I think I could have just been Chris's shadow the entire race and waited for a field sprint. That's not usually a good tactic. I mean, Chris would just continuously attack me from that breakaway, and it wouldn't have worked out anyway. Probably would have been the same result. And also, that's just not the way I race. So I think earlier on, I could have done a better job to have a little bit more patience. And then later on in the final selection, when it was just Chris and I probably should have, eased off with more than just 2 laps remaining. I should have eased off a little bit earlier and forced Chris into a more difficult decision. So I have a lot more of these I'm trying to catch up on, guys. Some really exciting ones I'm really looking forward to sharing on the channel. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.
Oh, good sprint, man.